99X, it's the original 99X. Barnes and Leslie on your Morning X. Timing is everything, Leslie Fram. And the thing I wanted to bring up right now, I had already planned on bringing up, and then the Dave Grohl story broke, which kind of, tarnishes his name a little bit.
I mean, if you look at social media, people are like, you were supposed to be one of the good guys. Like, people are really upset.
I know that I've never seen news like that catch fire so fast and multi-format, multi-genre everywhere.
It's everywhere.
But let's act like that didn't happen just for a minute, because it doesn't affect what I'm about to tell you about regarding Nirvana.
Okay.
Let's not tarnish the Nirvana name. I found a really cool dossier of note. These are actually notes.
That may be the first time that word's ever been used on the Morning X. Dossier. Yeah.
And it is from a recording session, January 28th through the 30th, 1994 at Robert Lang Studios.
Ooh, 94.
So this was just a few months before Mr. Cobain passed away. And some very interesting finds in here. So I'll try to paraphrase some of this because it's very long, but there are some interesting little nuggets about this session. And they did a bunch of songs. A couple would become Foo Fighters songs. And they did it in this funky studio in Dave's neighborhood. Robert Lang had this studio underground.
If you look at their website...
Did I look at whose website? No, I didn't.
I opened it up, and the first thing you see is a quote from Dave Grohl.
Oh, really? Well, there you go. So they show up to this studio, and this was prior to the European tour, where, Kurt had a lot of problems also during that tour. And this was, quote, just to do something.
Ooh.
And I've got some audio I want to play for you in a second. So people didn't think that was weird because they knew how Kurt Cobain was. So maybe Kurt was going to show up. Probably eventually he would show up. Originally, Cobain wanted to do it at Studio X in Seattle. He heard about this other studio, so they go over there, and they nicknamed it Bob's Bunker. It's kind of underground with exposed walls.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures. It's cool.
So as they're loading in, Lang and one of his producers dragged in tree branches and set up candles to enhance the mood. And then Novoselic and Grohl both arrive on Friday afternoon. No Cobain. And Pat Smear was not present for the session. So according to Lang, Cobain was not expected until Saturday, but there was some hope that maybe he would show up. So they go about their business and just start messing around. And I'm looking at the labeling of the songs, and they're all done without vocals, and they were all given impromptu titles. One of them was a Foo Fighters song, February Stars. That appeared under the working title Dave Acoustic plus Vocal.
Interesting.
So I guess that one they did a vocal, but not obviously Kurt, because Kurt wasn't there. It had alternate lyrics and the sounds of a kitten at the very start, and this was a stray cat that had wandered in the studio.
I want to hear that.
I know. A couple of other ones. One was called Skid Mark, which was just a long poop joke. And it was just Grohl shouting skid mark during the whole thing. And there's another one I want to get to in a second that is very interesting to me. So finally on Sunday, Cobain arrives. 2 days, after they hoped he would arrive.
But he shows up, which is good.
And Novoselic and Grohl were by this point very weary. And Kurt comes in, sits at the console, and they start playing him all the music that they had been doing. And he thought, and he said, quote, "This sounds good. There's a cool vibe here." So they were about to jump in and start making all this for the next Nirvana record. So they get underway, they start jamming, doing their thing, and then they take a break. So Kurt, who plugs everything in, forgot his guitar.
All right.
And his amp. So he did not have what he normally plays with, but Dave had a guitar in his car that he had been working on for Cobain. He went out and got it and they used the amps in the room, and Kurt was, quote, okay with it. Like he just was like,
crazy.
I know, let's do it. So then they start working on the song, You Know You're Right.
Oh, wow.
And they took 1 or 2 takes to put the music together. Kurt's back was hurting because legendary back pain.
Yeah, back problems.
So he was laying on the concrete floor as they were listening to the tracks that they had laid down. He got up, did the song in 1 take. So 1 take, here's just a little bit of it. So it's You Know You're Right. Picture him on the floor in pain. He gets up and does this in 1 take. So a total mic drop. He gets up, does that in 1 take. Very few overdubs even after. That was it.
Well, after hearing that story, you can hear the pain in his vocals. Totally.
And it was marble. Correction. It wasn't concrete. It was marble. I mean, I'm looking at like
still.
8 pages of stuff and trying to paraphrase it very quickly. So one weird thing was when they went to go to lunch, Cobain was laughing and recalling their encounter with Eddie Van Halen on December 30th, which I don't remember ever hearing of. Like, I wonder what their encounter with Eddie Van Halen was.
Was he in the same studio?
1993. I don't know. It was something prior to that, like I guess a week or 2 before. So they finish everything. At the end of the session, Novoselic took the 2-inch masters home with him, and they sat in the basement until 1998.
What?
Yeah, the masters. And one of the songs that Cobain thought sounded, whatever he said, fun, cool, whatever, that would have been a Nirvana song is this song, and it's listed on, this is the total, like the listing, the track listing in the studio. It says like, new beat, in cars, new wave groove, Dave with Echoplex, and then there's all the You Know You're Right, Jam After Dinner, one was called, and here's one that went completely and virtually identical to the version that appears on the first Foo Fighters album, Big Me.
Are you serious?
Can you imagine if that would have been... I can't even hear Kurt singing that song.
So
he loved it, though.
I know. I wonder when that was written, if you think about it.
So obviously...
And it became a Foo song.
Right. They hung on to it, but like unchanged when it came out on the Foo album. But imagine Cobain singing that. I'm surprised no one's done that with AI yet. That's just so interesting to me that would have been a Nirvana song, which I feel like at that point in their game, it would have been the audience repelling something like that. Like, what are you doing? Going commercial?
I don't know why I never knew the history of that song.
Anyway, here it is. Imagine it with Kurt Cobain, Big Me. The Foo Fighters are on 99X.